Microphone's on.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to welcome all councillors and staff and declare that the meeting opened at 2 p.m. The Glamorgan Spring Bay Council acknowledges the traditional owners of our region and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. All councillors are present except the Mayor is not here. He will be joining us a little bit later on, and I'll be chairing the meeting today. In attendance, we have the Director of Community, Corporate and Community. No, we don't have Miss Blaine. We have Director of Works and Infrastructure, Mr. Porch, Director of Planning and Development, Mr. Alex Woodward, the General Manager, Mr. Greg Ingham, and Executive Officer, Miss Jasmine Murray. Councillors, you'll be aware that we do have a late item. I'd like a motion for that item to be accepted into this agenda, please. No, not that one. 2.2. Councillor Robinson.
That the minutes of the special meeting of council held on 30th of June 2022 at 12:30 p.m. be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Seconded, please. Councillor Breeny. Any discussion? No. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. I request councillor elected members to indicate whether they have any interest personally or via close associate as defined in section 49 of the Local Government Act 1993, or any conflict as described in Councillors' Code of Conduct for Councillors in any item in the agenda. And that is no, thank you. Councillors, with your indulgence, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of one of our former councillors, Mr. Jeff Whitten, who passed away a couple of weeks ago at Mayshore. Mr. Whitten was a councillor for a good number of years, I believe 6, and he was on council when I first joined in 2009, and he was known for his grammatical pickups. If the agenda had a grammatical situation, he would be, and numbers, yes. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge Councillor Whitten as being one of the reasons why I'm a councillor. He inspired me, and I went to him and asked of his advice before I even considered being a councillor, and I valued his advice above anything else because of the way that he was and the gentleman that he was. Well remembered and valet to him.
Yeah, true gentleman. Councillor Arnold?
Yes, I'd just like to endorse Councillor Breeny's words about Councillor Whitten. He was indeed a gentleman, and I had some amazing trips with him to around the council meetings over the time, over the years he was here. So thank you for acknowledging.
Yeah, so we just pay our respects to him and his family at this time. And thank you for the indulgence, councillors. On to item number 2, confirmation of minutes, ordinary meeting of council, Tuesday, 28th of June. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Breeny.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 28th of June 2022 at 2 p.m. be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Yes, seconded for the motion. Councillor Simons. Any discussion? That be the case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Items 2.2, can I, a special meeting of council Thursday, 30th of June 2022. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Arnold?
Thank you. The minutes, I'll move that the minutes of the special meeting of council held on the 30th of June 2022 be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Thank you. A seconder to that motion, Councillor Robinson. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Oops, sorry. 2.3, the special meeting of council held on Wednesday, the 6th of July. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Greenie?
Thank you. I move that the minutes of the special meeting of council held on the 6th of July 2022 at 2 p.m. be confirmed as a true and correct record.
A seconder for that motion, Councillor Browning. Any discussion? That being said, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Then 2.4 it would be is date and purpose of workshops held. There's one on Tuesday, the 12th of July 2022. There's a recommendation at the bottom of the page. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Robinson.
The council notes the information.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Browning. Any discussion? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. And then there is a workshop Tuesday, the 19th of July. At the bottom of the page, page 9, there's a recommendation. Can I have a vote? Councillor Arnold?
Thank you. I'll move that council notes the information in relation to the workshop on the 19th of July.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Greenie? Any discussion?
Can I just make a note, Acting Mayor? The presentation by East Coast Tourism was enlightening, and we did note at the time that the CEO was intending to resign. I can't remember the name of the CEO, I'm sorry.
Rhonda Taylor.
Rhonda Taylor has been doing an absolutely amazing job with East Coast Tourism Tasmania, and I think we need to acknowledge the fact that she has done a great deal for the tourism on the East Coast. We will miss her.
Thank you. I think all councillors around the table would concur with that sentiment. Thank you. I'll put the motion then that council notes this information. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. So we've got up to item 3, public question times. There are 2 questions on notice, one from Mr. Greg Luck with the General Manager's response there, and one from Miss Heather Davis, and again with the General Manager's response. And councillors, there was a question on notice from Mr. Wyminga, and the chair refuses to accept the questions on notice given pursuant to meeting regulations 31.5 and 31.6 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures, Regulation 2015. Reasons for the chair refusing to accept the questions on notice. Number 1, the first question related to an event that occurred some years ago. It draws a conclusion based upon unverified statements of fact and asks council to agree with the conclusion. It involves a question of conflict of interest, a matter that the Act and regulations left for the councillor, not any general manager, mayor or chair to determine. Number 2, the second question related to matters that had their origin years ago and is based on a set of facts about which council has no knowledge. It expresses an opinion about the process that council adopted, then proceeds to base the question upon that opinion. It also poses some hypothetical questions. It is not for council to answer hypotheticals. It then asks the general manager to predict how council would act if those hypotheticals were factually correct, and the questions in effect tell council what it should do. That telling statement cannot in any circumstance be considered a question, let alone one for answering by the general manager nor by council. For the above mentioned matters, the questions are not accepted by the chair. So we're going now on to Planning Authority. Under Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation, I hereby declare that council is now acting as a planning authority under the provisions of Land Use and Planning Approval Act 1993 for section 4 of the agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
Mayor,
No, we're going into
sorry, thank you.
the planning authority. Thank you. Councillor Arnold,
I will move that council now acts as a planning authority at 2:11 p.m.
a seconder for that motion, please. Councillor Robinson. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. We move on to 4.1. I note that there has been further information provided on this item very recently, and the applicant has agreed to an extension of time until the August meeting. In light of that, do I have a mover for a procedural motion to defer this matter until the August meeting?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to move a procedural motion that council defers consideration of this matter until its meeting of the 23rd of August 2022.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Arnold? All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. So that one will be moved to August. So we move then on to 4.2, draft amendment AM 2022 for /01 from Morgan Spring Bay Local Provision Schedule, subdivision of additional lots under Dolphin Sands particular purpose zone. There is a recommendation on page 42. Councillor Churchill. 43, sorry.
I move that an amendment be prepared and submitted to the Glamorgan Spring Bay Local Provision Schedule under Division 3A of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 to A, amend clause GSB P1.7.1 subdivision P1A by deleting the final word of the subclause or under section 40D, and B, apply to the Tasmanian Planning Commission for exemption from a public exhibition requirements under section 40I.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Arnold? Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to speak in support of this motion, just to give a little bit more background than is given in the report. And I just think we need to make council's position quite clear on our role in this case. There has been no subdivisions to create additional lots on Dolphin Sands for several decades. Under the interim planning scheme, GSBC 2015, 34.51, the objective for subdivision is, and I quote, to prevent subdivision of land other than that necessary for existing or approved uses or the management of environmental values. The intent of this standard is to prevent further subdivision on Dolphin Sands for the purpose of residential development. Councillors were very much involved in the local provision schedule process and operating as a planning authority. We were guided by council's senior planning consultant and the report he provided. The report states that Dolphin Sands, being a particular purpose zone under the interim planning scheme, was dealt with under the transitional provisions, section 35F of LUPA. The transitional provisions, and I quote, were carried over from the interim planning scheme to the LPS under a notice issued by the Minister for Planning. This document further states that the Act is very clear. Changes to these provisions are severely limited and for all practical purposes are not allowed. I continue to quote, representations that seek such changes, regardless of extent, cannot be considered without revoking the transitional status of these provisions. This entails council justifying the provisions as if they do not exist and involves significant risk that the same or similar provisions may not be approved as part of the LPS. This process would create significant risk for the council and affected property owners. Continuing the quote, absent a significant change in policy position by the council, the reality is that changes cannot be made to the transitional provisions. Council did not consider any changes to the standards for subdivision for Dolphin Sands. It would appear there has been a drafting error during the LPS process, changing the meaning and intent of the standard for subdivision with the addition of the word or. This motion for a planning scheme amendment can address the error under the provisions of the Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Councillor Arnold, being you're the seconder, did you wish to speak to the motion?
No, I think Councillor Churchill said it all. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Against? That being said, then, councillors, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. So under Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures, Regulations 2015, that I hereby declare that council is no longer acting as a planning authority under the provisions of Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993, the Section 4 of the agenda. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Robinson.
The council no longer acts as a planning authority at 2:16 p.m.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Browning. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Moving along to item 5, financial reports for the period ending 30th of June. There is a recommendation, on page 45. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Browning.
I move that council receives and notes the financial reports as attached to this report for the period ending the 30th of June 2022.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Churchill. Councillor Browning, would you like to speak to your motion?
I think the financial reports speak for themselves. And
Councillor Churchill.
I'm just looking through to see if I have any questions. I'm sorry. No, I think that's all fine.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillors, I accept that Council made the decision some time ago to remove the individual department profit and loss and other financial information from the monthly agenda and place those reports in the quarterly briefing report to streamline our agendas. As councillors, we have a responsibility to maintain broad oversight of the organisation's finances. And whilst the group financial reports in the monthly agenda continue to provide information as required by legislation and annual reporting to the Auditor General, it is becoming increasingly difficult to keep track of the individual departments. As this agenda contains the end of 2022 financial year reports, my comment in relation to the financials is in general, and is that we are asked throughout the year to make decisions about individual departments, for example, the medical practices. That becomes difficult when the departmental information is only received quarterly and more often than not 4 to 6 weeks after the close of the period because of timing and other issues. In this agenda, the notation on the profit and loss states the doctor's income at the end of June is down $499,000 and that there is offset in reduced expenditure. Does this mean that the medical practices are still on track to make a small profit, as was indicated in the March departmental report? I agree it is a large reduction in income over any 1 year. But does it indicate that as soon as that reducing income became apparent, there should have been a review of the medical practice budget? Is it time Council did quarterly or half-yearly reviews of departments that are underperforming or overspending? My other concern in relation to financials is what appears to be increasing reliance on legal advice, as evidenced by the response to a ratepayer in the questions section of this agenda. As an elected member, I have no idea what the expenditure was on legal advice during the past financial year. There is no line item for legal advice in any of the reports we receive, so those costs must become part of materials and services. One would assume that there is a separate account code for legal expenses in the system, so it should be relatively easy to check the actual cost across all departments. Perhaps it's time to do a review of that overall cost and assess if there is value in employing in-house legal counsel to reduce that expense. I'm sure there's a bright young lawyer out there who would relish working in local government. It is fair to say that the financial results in an overall sense are pleasing after a difficult couple of years, but at what cost to the ratepayer? The statement is made in this agenda that the results have improved on the planned financial position as proposed by the 2021-22 budget and demonstrates clear progress toward the aspirations of the long-term financial management plan. But again, at what cost to the ratepayer? Perhaps it is time for this council to do realistic budget adjustments half-yearly. The questions in this statement are really rhetorical and are only offered for consideration by the General Manager. I do not require a response. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to respond though, if I may. The issue with the medical practice has been discussed at this council, and it is a sensitive matter that I thought Councillor Honour was aware of, and certainly not for public discussion, but that has resulted in that figure that was mentioned.
May I just interrupt? The figure is actually what's in their financial reports in this agenda.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that, but
Yeah.
yeah. In regards to the finances generally, I take on board what Councillor Honours has said. I would love to have thought that the level of scrutiny and interest in the budgets now were existent a few years ago. We wouldn't be in the situation we're in now. So it's great to hear your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Churchill.
If I could just make a comment, Councillor Arnold, it might be as well if those issues you've just raised came to the audit panel.
What, sorry?
Come to the audit panel so that we could
Yes.
discuss them there. That might be an appropriate place to.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Churchill.
Mhm. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Simons.
Just after, through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, I did have a question on the medical centre income being down so far, but having heard the General Manager just say it's something that shouldn't be discussed, I'm not sure quite whether to ask the question or not now. I'm not sure. I might need a bit of direction from our General Manager here.
The best way I can respond to that, Councillor, is that there's contractual arrangements between council and the doctors, at our medical practices, as you're aware, and there has been a change in the way payments that have been made or transactions occurring that wasn't at the behest of council, that have resulted in where we are at now. I don't know if the Director of Planning wants to make further comment, but there have been changes in the way remuneration has occurred between council and the doctor, a doctor.
Okay, so maybe my question could be directed through the Deputy Mayor to Mr Woodard, I was just interested in the amount that the income's down. I don't quite understand. It's about $10,000 a week, but is it across our 2 medical centres? Is it across one? Is it, or if it's in confidence, we can put it on notice and discuss it at another time, but it's in this agenda right now.
It would be preferable to discuss this outside of the meeting, Councillor Simons, and I'm happy to have it on our agreement on that discussion for public record, but we've got to be careful with what we discussing here in this forum.
That's what we do.
Oh, well, with great respect, Deputy Mayor, if that's the situation, why was it a notation in the group financial reports? And that's the only reason I raised it, because it's sitting there in our public agenda. So if there is this issue, I question why the notation was put. That it's.
Do you want to?
No.
The
Oh, sorry.
Mr.
Mr.
Woodward.
Through you, Madam Chair. So notations obviously placed on the reports because there is obviously a discrepancy. So there's a variance. So we are required to report that variance. As far as the discussion, I guess in open council could move to move into closed for a procedural motion just for a short period of time to discuss this matter. Obviously, it does come to with, as the General Manager pointed out, contractual arrangements, but effectively there was a change in the billing practices at one of the clinics, which resulted in a change in how the financials were received, and council received its contribution. That's a broad overview, but if you require further detail, I'd suggest entering into closed council.
No? Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to say anything with regards to the financial reports? Thank you. Then I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. On to section 6, item 6, sorry, section 24, committees of council. We have the Coles Bay Community Hall minutes. And there is a recommendation for those to be accepted or received is on page 48. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Churchill.
I move that the minutes of the Coles Bay Hall Committee meeting held on 16th of May 2022 be received and noted.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion, Councillor Robinson. Any discussion? No, that being said, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Then that's unanimous, sorry. Going on to 6.2, Spring Bay Elder Care Committee meetings, 23rd of May. The recommendation is on page 51. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The minutes, I move that the minutes of the Spring Bay Elder Care Committee meeting held on the 23rd of May 2022 be received and noted.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Breeny. Speak to your motion, Councillor Arnold.
No, it's self-explanatory. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the minutes? That being said, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to item 7, information reports. Director of Works and Infrastructure, Peter Porch. There is a detailed report there and there is a recommendation on page 56. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Browning.
I move that council notes the information.
Thank you. And a seconder for that, Councillor Robinson. Do you wish to speak to your motion, Councillor Browning? Wish to speak to them on the report? That being said, then I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Moving on to 8 Item 8, officers' reports requiring a decision. So 8.1 is request for support, Freycinet Challenge 2022. And there is a recommendation on page 61. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Simons?
Yes, I'll move that the council approves the application for community event assistance from Jamset Proprietary Limited for the Freycinet Challenge 2022 by the way of provision of additional wheelie bins and curbside collection as resources permit, provision of toilets, toilet consumables and amenity labour as resources permit, social media and marketing support through council's existing channels to help promote the event, cash contribution of $509 towards road traffic signs procurement, seek the Freycinet Challenge to include council as a sponsor on the Freycinet Challenge website. And 2, the council approves the road closures of Esplanade, Coles Bay between the Coles Bay Road and number 39 Esplanade between 7:30 and 16:30 on Saturday, the 8th of November, and between 7:30 and 16:30 on Sunday, the 9th of October, 2022, for the organiser, Freycinet Challenge Organising Committee, to conduct the Freycinet Challenge event, and that council advertises the road closures in accordance with policy. And 3, that the council approves to pay for advertising administration costs associated with the road closures.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for the motion, please? Councillor Churchill. Councillor Simons, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just other than it's a great event for Coles Bay and for our municipality, and it really showcases what we've got to offer. I think the economic benefits can't be underestimated, and the health and well-being benefits can't be overestimated. So I think it's something we really do need to support.
Thank you. Councillor Churchill, being the seconder, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just to add to what Councillor Simons has said, it is very well supported by the local community as well. And I think it's a great event.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? That being said, then I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Um, 8.2, Community Small Grants, Swansea Local Events Committee. There is a report there and a recommendation on page 64. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Breeny.
Move that council approve the application for small grant funding of $1,000 to Swansea Local Events Committee to support their car show and movie night.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Simons. Councillor Breeny, would you like to speak to your motion?
Just briefly, this has been discussed in the presence of some council and the general manager at the Swansea Chamber of Commerce meetings. They are being overseen and provided quite lengthy information about what they're doing. It's going to be an excellent event for the community, something that the Chamber of Commerce is fully in favour of. And I'm happy to support this grant.
Thank you, councillor Breeny. Councillor Simons, do you wish to speak?
No.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion?
Can I just say something?
Yes, you may.
Madam Mayor, just to carry on from what Councillor Breeny was saying, the Swansea Chamber of Commerce is really playing quite an active role in the community, and it's great to see. And they certainly have signalled their intention to have a strong focus on community events, supporting them, facilitating them in their role as a chamber. And that's great to see. It's also good that, to see the councillor representation at those chamber meetings. I think it's very much valued by the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Churchill.
I just want to say that, this is yet two more events that are new to the chamber just recently. And that's three pretty major events they will be holding within a period of a year. I think it's a little while since that's occurred. Thank you.
Yes. Yep. All that being said, councillors, any more comment? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Please be it noted that our mayor has arrived at 2:35 p.m. So we move on to 8.3, Community Small Grants Application, Freycinet Volunteer Marine Rescue Association, Inc. There is a report there with the recommendation on page 67. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Bruni.
May I move that council approve the application for a small grant funding of $839 to the Freycinet Volunteer Marine Rescue Association Incorporated for purchase of life jacket, servicing and a set of binoculars.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Browning. Councillor Bruni, would you like to speak to your motion?
Just briefly, I'd like to say the work that the Volunteer Marine Rescue Association does is fantastic, and our support of this amount of money is the least we could do for the community support they give. Thank you.
Thank you. I would suggest by the nodding of the heads around the table that everyone concurs with your sentiment. Does Councillor Browning, would you like to speak?
Just to
Yep.
say, I totally agree. It's a great organisation.
Yes. Anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? That being said, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to 8.5, the draft, 8.4, draft marine, Tribunal Marina and wharf policy. There is a motion, a recommendation on page 69. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Arnold.
Yes, I'll move that council adopt the Tribunal Marina and Wharf Precinct Policy as attached to this report, item effective the 26th of July 2022.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Churchill. Councillor Arnold, you speak to your motion.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Churchill.
No, I don't think there's anything that I have to add. Thank you.
Any other councillors wish to speak? Said I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to 8.5, draft council allowance and expense reimbursement policy. There is a report there. The recommendation on page 71. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Arnold.
Thank you. I'll move that council adopt the councillor allowances and expense reimbursement policy as attached to this report. I'd like to add the words dated the 26th of July 2022.
Seconder for the motion. Councillor Robinson. Councillor Arnold, we should speak to your motion.
No, thank you, Deputy Mayor, other than to say that I think this now makes it very clear what we can and can't claim in reimbursement. So it's a piece of good work.
Thank you. Anyone else
Just briefly through you, Deputy Mayor, yeah, it's good to see two policies being combined into one, and to make it a lot more, give a lot more clarity to councillors without having to look at two policies. You can go and see what allowances are available.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Browning.
I'd just like to bring up about on page 414 about councillors will be provided with a laptop and internet access device. If I'm used to using an Apple, and I'm assuming that all these are going to be Microsoft, and I've never used one. So I just personally, I can't see why you can't have your own device. If you're comfortable using your own device, why you need to be using a laptop that you're going to have training in to use if you've never used one before. I disagree with that part of the
So, sorry, what page was that on again?
414.
It's actually page.
Page 5 of the.
Yeah.
Page 5 of,
policy document.
yeah, the policy document, page 5 of.
Thank you, Councillor Browning. General Manager is going to make a comment to that one.
Yes, so through you, Madam Mayor, the main driver for this, as council would be aware, was like with all our policies to try ensure they are consistent, that they're easily understandable. Like the previous policy we just discussed, that they fit for purpose. In terms of just generally in terms of IT, council will be well aware of some of the issues that have transpired in local government in Tasmania in particular, around IT security, around cyber attacks and things like that. There's also a serviceability aspect to this that we need to consider. I take on board Councillor Browning's comments about her affinity with the Apple device. There's certainly no intent to go down a pathway where any councillor was left in a situation where they didn't understand how to use their device, whether it's an old device that they've been using all along or whether it's a new device. Certainly, I can give you the assurance that there will be the relevant training, enough training provided for you to be as good on a new device if we were to change. I'm not saying that change is
You could
happening.
always, sorry, through the acting mayor, you could always go to Apple.
Move everyone else to Apple. Yeah, I
Yes.
don't know, councillor, whether that would be the right pathway as well. You may have some others that wouldn't be too happy about that, but please rest assured that you won't be disabled in being able to fulfill your civic duties.
Deputy Mayor, could I just ask or make a comment about that? I didn't pick that up, what Councillor Browning, when I read through this again, but I've got a vague recollection that we actually discussed it in the workshop. And I thought we were going to have a line in here that was going to actually cover that if a councillor wanted to use their own equipment. And that line's somehow or other didn't get into this policy. So it might be something to be considered at some time. I'm really confident that we did discuss exactly Councillor Browning's issue before.
I think you're right, Councillor Arnold. We did it at a workshop, absolutely.
Councillor Browning?
Yeah, I recall that, by the way, and I think it was a matter that was going to be considered. But the one thing that is really important that we have to take into account is cyber attack, and without having our IT consultants totally in control of our IT. In other words, if the instrument that's being used is not able to be pointed to the IT people and say, why did that happen? There's going to be some issues that we might have. So I think that's the thing, not taking away the ability for users to use what they feel comfortable with, and making sure that what they do use is safe. That's the issue.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that the expert advice, IT advice has always been that, and I know it's very hard to actually achieve this 100% because we all do on occasion non-work related stuff on our devices, whether it's a mobile home device or whether it's a laptop. But in the ideal IT world and risk mitigation, it would be their preference to see work-related devices solely dedicated for work-related matters, and private devices solely devoted. You know what I'm saying? So that's ultimately where we're trying to go with this as well. Just to try and shore up. We've been very fortunate, Glamorgan Spring Bay, very fortunate in that we haven't had, fingers crossed, we haven't touched wood. We haven't had a major IT incident to date. But I can assure you there's some councils on this island that have had some severe disruptions to their business, some really costly disruptions to their business. private information getting out, all those sorts of things. And I guess this is just part of that continual improvement process to ensure that we can mitigate risk as much as possible and still make it easier for you councillors to do the duties that you need to do.
Just through you, Deputy Mayor, just one comment on that. My preference would always be for an Apple, but in an organisation, I can understand in my previous work career, you have to have one platform right through your system, whether that be Microsoft or Apple. And I know through my work, I just became familiar with both, Councillor Browning. So, and I think it doesn't matter what platform it is, you've just got to have the same platform. So it's easy for your IT techs to manage. And that's the way it's, unfortunately or unfortunately, that's the way it's got to be.
Thank you. Councillor, sorry, Councillor Mayor Young.
Deputy Mayor, I note that it says laptop without specifying what style, what system is being used, and there are many. And I'm sympathetic for those that use Apple because I can understand Apple. I have shocking trouble in dealing with Microsoft. And it's only because of lack of skill for no other reason. And I think the policy looks to be a good one, but I just pose the question, is all the equipment around here for the benefit of the office staff or for the benefit of the councillors so the councillors can do their work? That's something that would be in my mind in deciding whether or not I'd foist Microsoft on people that can't use it, and new councillors may not be able to, or they might be familiar with it. Some might even be older than me and they used to use pen and ink with a well and a scratchy pen. But it's a good policy. The theory is good. Let's hope it works in practice.
Thank you. Councillor Churchill.
Just a question of the General Manager through you, Deputy Mayor. This policy is going to be presumably dated today. I'm assuming that the actual policy will not be implemented until the new term of council, correct?
That is correct, Councillor Churchill. And the reason, that was another reason for the timing of this. We have an opportunity with the new council to, on several fronts, in several areas, to hit the ground running with some changes. That would be, I think Councillor Arnold pointed it out at the last meeting, that would be difficult to enact, or seemingly untimely to try and do at a stage when new councillors would just come on board.
So any more discussion on that? Okay, then I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Moving on to the Memorandum of Understanding Landscape Recovery Foundation. There is a report there and a motion on, a recommendation, on page 77. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Breeny.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council 1 authorise the General Manager to sign the Memorandum of Understanding with the Landscape Recovery Foundation. 2, endorse that the existing S24 Natural Resource Management Committee members be offered a transition to the role of the East Coast Catchment Steering Committee for the first 12 months. 3, authorise that the Section 24 Natural Resource Management Committee be dissolved following this transition. And 4, authorise the General Manager to write to current members of the Section 24 Natural Resource Management Committee to thank them for their outstanding contribution to the field of natural resource management in the Glamorgan Spring Bay area.
Thank you, Councillor Breeny. Seconder for the motion, Councillor Arnold. Councillor Breeny, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, please, Mayor. Acting Mayor. Yes, this matter was the subject of a workshop, and it was clearly an issue that was in need of consideration, given the misunderstandings, etc., that might have occurred over the past several years. One of the things that I feel much more confident in supporting this, and one of the reasons why I feel much more, is that it seems to be something that is generated out of the committee itself. They've seen the need that this will be a way to move forward that will satisfy the committee in as far as it can be satisfied. And that's something that council needs to be aware of, is that they are a vital committee in this municipality, looking after the natural resources of Glamorgan Spring Bay. The fact that it was generated by the committee and endorsed, or at least endorsed, enabled the committee to look at how to deal with council in a way, rather than in a confronting way or in a way where they have to actually deal with council and council management. They have a body now, the Landscape Recovery Foundation, East Coast Project Team, who they directly report to, and council can, and the project team reports back to that committee, and also council can report to the East Coast Project Team and the team back to council. And that gives a focus for both of us, both council and the committee, to look at how to deal effectively with their projects. And that leads to the annual work plan, directly dealing with the issues that natural resource management should deal with. I find this a very positive move. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Bruni. Councillor Arnold?
Yes,
would you like to
please,
speak to the
Deputy Mayor.
motion?
Firstly, I believe that it is important for council to recognise the cooperative approach that the Section 24 NRM committee has taken in recommending this course of action. And I do thank councillor Bruni for highlighting that. The past 12 months or so can only be described as tumultuous in the life of this Section 24 committee. There has been times when many of them would have walked away for one reason or another. But to their credit, they have continued their unwavering commitment to all things NRM in the Glamorgan Spring Bay area. Whilst not meeting the desire of the Section 24 committee to remain as such, this transition request does appear to offer a credible alternative for this group of passionate NRM members, and I would urge all of them to take the opportunity for the first 12 months to ensure continuity of their knowledge, expertise and passion for the area. It is important to recognise the part that the Director of Planning and Development played in achieving this result, and I thank Mr Woodward for taking that cooperative and inclusive approach. This MOU is the culmination of many discussions at committee level about the future for NRM, and I urge all councillors to support the motion.
Thank you, councillor Arnold. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Against? That being said, then councillor Bruni, would you like to close?
I think everything's been
Sure.
said that needs to be, and I concur exactly with councillor Arnold's comments.
Thank you. That being said, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. That's unanimous. Moving on to 8.7, Esplanade West Tribunal one-way section proposal. There is a report there and a recommendation on page 81. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Robinson?
The council resolves that advertising in a subsequent application is carried out in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Highways Act 1982 for implementing a one-way traffic system on Esplanade West Tribunal between the RSL Club car park and Melbourne Street, with traffic flowing from east to west.
Thank you. A seconder to that motion? Councillor Churchill. Councillor Robinson, would you like to speak to your motion?
Only that I think this is going to be a positive move. If we go ahead with this, it'll help the traffic flow, and yeah, I think it's a good thing. So hopefully people will support this motion.
Thank you. And anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Breeny.
The three, I'd like to direct a question to the Director of Works and Services in relation to whether or not there is any indication as to where this requirement arose and whether or not there is an awareness of the popularity or otherwise of the proposal in the public, through the community.
Through you, Madam Chairman, we wrote to every ratepayer or every residence in Triabunna to advise them of the proposal and to invite them to have their feedback through the survey. We posted on Facebook. We had 1,100 odd people who saw some evidence of that, another 147 odd who decided to go a bit further and find out a bit more for it. We consulted with the bus company who used the route. We've taken traffic counts and direction of traffic and the like. The report attachments include the feedback we have for it, which is for the majority quite positive. The proposal came out of a Triabunna Tomorrow plan, which indicated a one-way section through that. So we think that the idea is not new. It's been around for a little while, and this is a means of following through with that, and implementing that as part of the overall Triabunna Tomorrow plan.
Thank you. That sounds like you've done everything you could possibly do. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Yes.
can I just make a comment? Madam Chair, the director picked up an interesting observation through this consultation, and that was just how effective social media is in doing consultation. And this was a case in point. The responses we got through Facebook far outweighed anything we could have got through dropping letters and letterboxes or any other means. And I think it just highlights how we shouldn't, as an organisation, shy away from social media as a tool that we can use to our advantage. In the right way. We've got to be careful when we go into the space, but other councils have done it far further than we've got. More well-resourced councils, I suppose, than we are. But certainly, I think Peter's the director's response received for this particular matter through social media was quite impressive.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this? That being said, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you. 8.8, Bicheno Electric Vehicle Charging Station. Report is there, and there is a recommendation on page 84. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Simons.
I'll move that council resolves to establish an electric vehicle charging station within the car park on the southwest corner of the intersection of Burgess and Foster Street, Bicheno.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Churchill. Councillor Simons, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Maybe just briefly that it was a pretty, it was surprising how difficult it was to find a site to put an electric charging station in Bicheno. And I think we've probably come to the point where we've had to make a choice, otherwise risk not having an electric charging station. So this seemed to be what was put forward by people within the community, and I think it's probably a good result.
Thank you, Councillor Simons. Councillor Churchill? Nothing? Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Simons.
Anyone else wish to say anything with regards to this motion? That being said, although I'll put the motion, all those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous, councillors. So we go now to page 8.9, Swanwick Waste Transfer Treatment System. Report there, and there is a recommendation on page 87. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Browning.
I move that pursuant to section 100 of the Local Government Act 1993, by absolute majority, makes the following change for the Swanwick wastewater system or properties connected to the system in Swanwick for the period commencing the 1st of July 2022 and ending the 30th of June 2023, namely a charge of $551.51 for all properties with a connection to the Swanwick wastewater treatment system managed by council, and 2, rights to the petitioners and advise that their petition has been considered.
Thank you.
Can I just identify, I think councillor Browning, sorry, said at the beginning, make the following change. It's
Oh,
actually
okay.
make the following charge. It's the correct word, sorry.
Sorry.
So we have that clear, have we?
And I'll second the motion.
And
on that
second the
one.
motion?
Yes.
Councillor Browning, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just to say that it costs a lot of council, a lot of money to run this system. And it was put back in quite a long time ago. And I think it's probably not before time that seeing that Taswater don't want to take it on, that we need to start charging for its use.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Arnold, did you wish? Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Being said, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. It's unanimous. Item 9 is notice of motion. There are nil. Item 10 is petition.
Deputy Mayor, could I move that council receives the petition and notes that an outcome was recorded at agenda item 8.9.
Thank you, councillor Arnold. A seconder for that one. Councillor Browning. You wish to say anything to the motion, councillor Arnold?
No, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think this just completes the paperwork for this particular matter.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? No. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Go on to item 11, questions from councillors. There are none. And 11.2, questions without notice by councillors. Is there any councillors have any questions without notice? No, thank you. And questions from councillors again. Let me go through that because it's a repeat. And item 12, sorry, we, in accordance with the requirements of local government meeting procedures regulation, I declare the meeting closed to the public in order to discuss the following matters. Item 1, minute of closed session, ordinary council meeting 28th of June 2022, as per the provisions of regulation 15(2)A and D of the local government meeting procedures, regulations 2015, and item 2, Coles Bay electric vehicle charging station expression of interest as per the provision of regulation 15(2)C of the local government meeting procedures, regulation 2015. Can I have a motion? Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move that council moves into closed session at 3:03 PM.
And a seconder for that motion, please. Councillor Breeny. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. That's unanimous. We are moving into closed session, and I will wait to be confirmed that the streaming has